This is 2.4 Trans-Saharan Trade Network, and it is rather short. Some of the stuff, like the stories of Ibn Battuta, we will pick up in 2.5, so we're not skipping it. It's just in a different location. All right, so let me see if I can get this to work. We have covered the red, we have done the blue, and now we are over to this like yellow-brown color. All right, this is all through the northern portion of Africa and the trade system that was in place. So we're looking to explain the causes and effects of this specific trade route and also looking at how it explains the expansion of empires in terms of influencing trade and communication. So things we've mentioned but come back up are the existence and use of camel saddles, the invention of them, I suppose, and the use of caravans. So we've seen this in the Silk Road. It's similar stuff that impacts them, right? So camel caravans are used in the Silk Road. They're also definitely used in trans-Saharan trade more so than horses, and the camel saddle is a game changer. So this is kind of the more detailed route of what is happening here, and I think it's a good one because it shows you all the different goods that are actually in play. We kind of sum it up to things like salt, ivory, and gold. Those are the three big ones, but there's still a lot more being taken around in this region. And then we're going to kind of focus on the Kingdom of Mali for our short little like example today. And they are one of the richest kingdoms in the world at this time, with the richest man to ever live, and heavily influenced by Islam, but also were huge proponents of the trade system in place. So here we have a picture of Timbuktu. This is actually a mosque that they have, again, showing the importance of Islam throughout the northern region, which shouldn't be surprising because we had talked about Dar al-Islam incorporating part of northern Africa into their network, and then also Islamic merchants going out into regions bringing their religion as well. So here we have all these old Islamic texts that exist. I think I have a video that talks about them more, so hold on that topic. All right, the technologies we are talking about today are camel caravans and camel saddles and pretty much anything to do with camels. So it's the same thing that we kind of looked at with the Silk Road, but then the Indian Ocean trade, they had so many more, right? Like the astrolabe and the compass and the dhow and the junk and the lateen sail. This is, I don't want to say it's more simplified, but you're once again walking over land, so it's very similar to the Silk Road trade routes. These massive lines of camels, all packed full of stuff that you're trading. People on saddles trying to make sure we're going the right way. Now, with all of this trade that's going on, there is one empire that really sticks out above others, and it will be the Kingdom of Mali with this man, Mansa Musa. He is an extremely wealthy king of Mali, and he will also help, to some extent, spread Islam throughout the world. So, one of the things to note about the Northern Africa Trans-Saharan trade system is its relation to Mecca. So, Mecca is the kind of capital place for Islam, right? It's this major city. It's where they face to pray 5 times a day. And it's also the place that everyone has to go to at least once in their life to participate in the Hajj. And so now you can get on a plane, right? And you can go there, and there's like buses that take you to where you need to be. But back then it was you had to figure out how to get yourself there. And so you had a lot of travelers along these roads throughout all these places that were impacted by Islam trying to get to Mecca. And a lot of those places are through Northern Africa. And the trade routes could assist with this to some degree, or at least definitely be impacted by it. So we have the Kaaba that is seen at the kind of center of this place in Mecca. And the Kaaba is something that the Islamic followers walk around. It's super special. It's seen as an ancient temple that I believe was it Abraham built, I think. And so it's important to the Islamic faith, very much so, where they shroud it in black, and then there's golden words threaded around it. So it's kind of one of the iconic pieces of the Hajj. Now, when it comes to what people understood about the world, this is what a map looks like. They got Europe pretty good, which to my knowledge would say this is probably a European created map, right? Even the language looks to be European to some extent. Well, look at how nice they have Italy carved out, and even the UK and Spain and France. Like it's all beautifully done. And the northern region of Africa is not half bad, right? A lot of it looks pretty shapely in the right way. Um, but what you can notice is they've put stuff on the map to show like what important things exist, whether it's sultan or a king or a religion. And look at what they have going through Africa. They have camels and camel caravans going through. So even they understood that there is a trade route here that is very effective, that Europe was also getting goods from, right? So let me go back to this map. Europe is participating. Europe has the Mediterranean, and all of these trade routes are going to the coast, like Algiers and Tripoli. So it's very easy for them to ship it into Europe. Now, when we had talked about Darwinism, we had talked about conquest being the way that the religion tended to spread, but the other way is trade. It's not always conquest. So maybe the northern borders are conquest based spreading of empires, but down south from that, in that light yellow, not so much. A lot of that is going to be just through merchants. Now, the things that people wanted out of Africa are going to be gold, salt, ivory, and slaves. Um, when the introduction of the camel to North Africa happened, it really changed commercial life because now you had these animals that could trek through the desert very well. You know, you didn't need to water them as much as horses. Their hooves are created more for sand, and they can carry large amounts of weight. Um, this just made them better suited to exist in this environment and let trade flourish. So people all over the world wanted gold above everything, but they learned the value of ivory, of certain vegetation like these cola nuts, and slaves as well start being demanded in the Mediterranean basin into Europe. So that does start. This is not the slave trade we are more familiar with. That is not going to occur just yet, but it is important to know it didn't start there. You did have slaves being taken out of Africa to be sold into the Mediterranean and also into the Indian Ocean trade system. So, in return for things like slaves and ivory and these nuts, people in modern day Sudan received things like horses, clothes, or cloth, not clothes, cloth, dates, and other manufactured goods, and then salt. So, salt can only be found in certain regions, mostly in the Sahara. And so, people in other regions, whether it be north or south of there, they want this stuff. And that means, like they obviously have things that people in the Sahara region want. And it's this idea of just, trading good for a good. All of this interaction, though, is going to help spread the religion as well. So again, we have art depicting in the center one trade, right? Or at least somebody on a horse. But a lot of it is going to be tied to trade. We see evidence of this African based art kind of everywhere through the region. So they share some cultural things. Now, again, the slide is trying to tell you what do they trade in this network? Salt, ivory, slaves, and gold. Versus if we look at what they sell and trade on the Silk Road, silk, porcelain, spices, Indian Ocean trade, bulk goods. Like things like spices are traded as well, which I guess we could kind of consider a luxury good. These are expensive, but also things like textiles and timber. So you do need to be familiar with what's coming out of each region and what each region has that's so special to them. So when we look at this, again, we can track the spread of Islam. We can look at when, mosques are built and when we have written examples of the Quran being found, things like that. We can tell that it is spreading from the Middle East into Africa. Their neighbors, of course, it would spread through travelers or through merchants because it does align where trade systems are. Now, I wish I was in class with you guys today because we could talk about why is salt so valuable. Well, the answer is that it stops things like meat from spoiling, right? In middle school, I know they go over this, where they talk about how meat can be dried and packed in salt, and it can keep it good for a lot longer than just like meat sitting out since they don't have refrigeration. So it's a really good tool to keep food good longer. And that's always a struggle for humanity at this time because of lack of refrigeration. And they know that meat can spoil and then you just have to throw it away. And that's a wasted opportunity to feed people. So salt is a really needed commodity, but you also can't find it everywhere in the world. So we still have salt mines in Africa today. You have these big, kind of look like bricks or pallets that they take off, and it's actually considered one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And you have a camel where they strap these slabs to it and have to cart it to the nearest city. And so, in some ways, the trading of salt hasn't changed a ton. So this video, I do want you to go watch. It shows you a great example of what it's like. And it shows how it's a hard life to mine in the salt mines. But even then, it shows the camel caravans and how dangerous it is to get back to the major cities, trying to find watering holes along the way without getting lost in the sand. And it, even though it's a more modern depiction, it is still very similar to what would have been going on hundreds and hundreds of years ago for this commodity that we still want today. And people back then have wanted for their own reasons as well. And so this all goes back to, again, the Bantu people migrating and then bringing their agricultural techniques, their iron technology, and their language all coming down. So when we talk about trans-Saharan trade, it's in that northern region. And then when you get down into the southern region, that's when you get into Swahili city states and like Great Zimbabwe tapping into the quote interior, which would be like, hopefully you can see my mouse, the Congo region and stuff here, because Great Zimbabwe is over here. And they can tap into this region, get goods out of it, bring it to them, and then bring it to the city states. So it's all kind of part of this piece. They each have their own region that they're participating in. Africa is clearly economically part of the world. They are participating and they have a lot of quality stuff that the rest of the world wants and can't find other places as well. You can watch this if you want, but we've already kind of gone over the band. There's not a ton to go over. That's all I got for trans-Saharan trade. Like I said, we're going to talk about Ibn Battuta, and I think your homework was it last night or tonight? You're going to be looking at Ibn Battuta versus Marco Polo because your textbook already talks about them. We'll hit on that in 2.5. I'm not ignoring him. He's a very important traveler and explorer. So he's coming. Don't think I'm skipping over him. He's a very important piece of the story. So, all right. That's all I got for you about trans-Saharan trade.